Hello and welcome to Tech Raven. Well, today I've got one for you photographers because it recently dawned on me that out of all the photographers that subscribe to my channel to watch the various photography tutorials or reviews that I do here, none of you actually know what kind of photography I do because I've never shared my portfolio before, so you wouldn't have seen any of my images apart from the odd one when I'm doing a tutorial. So today I figured, you know what, I'm going to share my portfolio with you so you can take a look at some of my photography on my website and on my portfolio. Now, if you're a photographer and you've already got a website with your portfolio on it, then it's always kind of interesting to see how other photographers go about laying out their website and what they've done with regard to the website design and their portfolio. If you're a photographer thinking of putting a website together with a portfolio, then you can take a few tips from how I actually did mine. Now, before I show you the portfolio, I just want to say why I didn't use a company like Wix or Squarespace, because at the end of the day, I didn't really want to have to pay anywhere between £15 and £30, which is probably about $15 to $30, something like that, to essentially rent a template and a tiny minuscule little bit of storage space on a cloud somewhere. So what I did, I basically had a friend do my website for me using WordPress and a WordPress template. Now, I designed the website myself because I wanted something really clean and minimalistic. At the end of the day, it's just an online portfolio, so I didn't want to overcomplicate it. So I've just got 4 pages. I've got a landing page, a portfolio page, a page that's about me, and a contact page, and that's it. So using Affinity Photo, I designed those 4 pages myself, put them together, sent the 4 images to my friend and said, this is what I want. So using WordPress, he put it together. Now, he charged me about £320 to do the website. It only literally took him an afternoon. And it was about £40 for the template, which is just a one-off fee. It's for life. So that's probably the equivalent of about 1.5 to 2 years at the most of monthly fees that you would pay to a company like Squarespace. But once that time is up, I'm back to just paying £6 a month to my hosting company for my website, and the back end is very simple to use. It's easy for me to upload new pictures or change pictures and so on and so forth. So that's why I did that. So without further ado, let's take a look at my portfolio. Okay, so when you land on my homepage, this is what you're presented with. As you can see, it's nice and clean, and this is another reason I didn't want to use a Wix or Squarespace model, because you're essentially paying £20 a month or whatever it is they charge these days to rent a template. And I really didn't like any of their templates. I wanted something cleaner and just really simple. So as you can see at the top left, I've just got my logo with the aperture ring. I designed this myself. It's nice and simple, but it works. Down at the bottom right, I've got the website's shout line, just to tell people what it's about. And then at the top right, just 4 buttons for home, portfolio, about, and contact. So the reason I went for this photograph on the home page is because I just thought it's a nice, strong, purposeful expression. I converted it to black and white and added a little bit of silver, kind of sepia tone, just to make it more kind of photographic, if that's the right word. So I just think it works as a landing page image. It just says, yeah, this guy's a photographer. So working backwards, the contact form is really simple. I put this photograph here for no other reason than the fact that I like it. That's the only reason it's there. I could have picked any picture, but I went with that one. And then I've just got a simple contact form here for name, email, and message, and submit. On the About page, just a picture of me with a little bit about me, not too much detail, just for those who are interested. Anybody that visits the website, that is the page to go to read a little bit about my history. And then onto the all-important portfolio page. Now here, it lands on the highlights section. Now the highlights is just a collection of shots taken from all these other categories that I just have on this page. So if people don't want to go through, or visitors to the website don't want to go through all these, they can just basically have a scroll through some of these to get an idea of the kind of photographs that I take. So I'm just going to go through these categories and cherry pick a few of my favourite photographs. I'm not going to go through all of them. They're going to come up across the bottom here, and you'll probably see me skip quite a few, but I'm just going to cherry pick a few of them. I really like this shot. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, you should have airbrushed out this big chunk of hair here, which I could have done quite easily. But again, I don't really like to do too much post work, and if I had have airbrushed this out, I wouldn't have considered it cheating, because if I'd have noticed it at the time of taking the shot, which I should have, I would have simply asked the model to brush it back behind her ear. So airbrushing that out wouldn't have been cheating, because she could have moved it out of the way anyhow. So that's at least how I see it. This shot was essentially a test shot. I was testing out the Canon RF 100mm macro lens, because it's got this SA ring on it, the spherical aberration ring, which you can turn plus or minus to make the bokeh either behind the subject or in front of the subject, as the case is here, appear smoother and creamier. So I'd set it about halfway to affect the bokeh in front of the subject to see how it worked. So essentially it's just a test shot. I just asked her if she could just sort of sit there, and I put the flowers in the appropriate position. This was actually done at the end of a different shoot. I was there with that model this day doing a photograph of her wearing some tight black leather pants, imitating the Bob Carlos Clark photograph. So when it gets to that point of the video, if I reference the girl with the flowers, this will be the image I'm talking about. I love this shot, the old classic Hollywood film noir photograph, just a single Fresnel lens, quite a hard light source that was just behind and to the right of the model, illuminating the right side of her face here, but wrapping around the back to illuminate her hair as well. Took several shots that day, but that was definitely the pick of the bunch. This one I like because it smacks of that Seattle grunge guitarist kind of thing. Converted it to black and white because I felt it worked. She didn't have much colour in her clothing. It was just a very faded denim shirt, so I figured it would just work better in black and white. It's kind of got a little bit of a reportage kind of feel to it. Another black and white shot, again, only because everything she was wearing was black, a very dark grey shirt, so I just felt this worked better in black and white. Couldn't quite decide whether the horizontals and verticals were 100% lined up on this one, looking at the top of the chair. Maybe it's slightly out. I couldn't quite decide, so I left it. I thought, I'll just go with what it was. Shot taken for a bridal company. Took about 50 shots that day of 3 different models wearing all the different outfits in his shop. That's all that is. Drummer friend of mine with his DW drum kit. He wanted sort of an environmental portrait. That's what that is. Moving on to these ones. We got this tarot reader. This is my favourite shot. I asked her to put her hands in that position. There's a CD cover of a female singer, and I showed her the cover. I said, look, do something like that with your hands, because I wanted to have her face framed with her hands. So I showed her the cover, and she did this to kind of mimic that. So I really like that one. I could have cleaned up these little bits of mess on the table, but again, I just thought I would leave them. Smoke in the background. Well, it had to be done, didn't it? Just really had to be done. A couple of shots here with my hat that I took along for the day. I like some of these, the lighting on them. I especially like that shot. And some shots here of a violinist. I like the lighting on this. I did a sort of a back side lighting on it. And I quite often take portraits of people with their backs to camera. I don't know. I just sort of like doing that sometimes. Shot of a little cutie in Cambridge. I like the way she holds her hands like a little rabbit's paws kind of thing. And this one I asked her to just lean backwards a little bit. Nothing special, just a couple of, outdoor kind of portrait type things. Here I got some shots of somebody pretending to be a guitarist. This is my favourite of the day. My guitar, the microphone's fake. And I had her scream into the microphone. I said, look, I want you to scream something into the microphone. She said, well, what? I said, just scream the word F-U-C-K. So I said, just scream that word as if you're really angry with somebody, because I want that sort of grunge metal kind of expression. So she was embarrassed to scream it out loud, so she whispered it out loud, almost like she was trying to imitate a football crowd roar, if that makes sense. But it worked, and I like that shot. I like this one. It's nice and clean, and it kind of has one of those natural beauty shot type of things, almost like the kind of shot you'd get in a beauty magazine midway through a makeover kind of thing. It's got to be done. The colour pop, whatever they call it, it just smacked to it, didn't it? I had to do it. It's kind of got a little bit of a Marilyn Monroe thing going on there with that pose and the hair, so I love that shot. This, again, it's just a snapshot taken in the woods of a friend, but I liked it. There's a big, massive silver, or was it white? I think it was silver, actually, because it's quite an overcast day. You can see, if you're looking at eye, it's got a big, round reflection of the silver that's to her left, just putting a little bit of light back into the shot. But I like the rule of thirds, the eyes on the top third line and the tree coming down here, the hand resting on it. Again, nothing special, just really liked it. Nothing special here, just a couple of images. This one I really like. This just absolutely smacks of Mickey Spillane's My Camera, doesn't it? Anybody that's my age will know exactly what I'm talking about here. Fate cigarette. Yes, I could have added some Fate smoke and had it drifting up, but that would just look a bit naff and cliche, so I didn't bother. But I love the lighting and the look, just the mood in her eyes. You know, that's my fedora hat. It's just basically making her eyes a little bit darker, although I did bring the eyes out a little bit in post-production. But yeah, I love that shot. It's one of my favourite shots, really nice. Friend again, I just had her wear some old manky black boots here because I figured it would be the polar opposite to this dainty, nice bridal dress. Threw a little cookie onto the background just to scatter up the background a little bit there. I like this shot, just leaning against a wall, just an outdoor portrait, nothing special. These three down the bottom, I really like these. This model, she had beautiful hair, really nice hair and really nice eyes, and it was all about the face and the skin. When I got to the studio, she was actually, you know, just standing there like half naked with just some knickers on saying, right, you know, what do you want me to wear? Thinking it was some sort of boudoir thing because that's the kind of work she normally does. And when I said, look, get dressed, put a nice top on. I only want to photograph your face. She just like looked at me like I was a Martian. She couldn't believe it. It's like, really? And like, yep. And look at that. I mean, why would you want to photograph anything else with this? I love this shot. It just reminds me of an album cover, kind of thing maybe Kate Bush would have used back in the late 70s, early 80s. You can imagine the name of the artist across the top here with the album title across the bottom. I'm talking vinyl records here, of course. Yeah, that's a portrait one. Moving on to fashion. There's nothing incredible here. This is probably my favourite shot out of all these. Again, I quite often have models stand with their back to camera, looking over their shoulder. I did have to airbrush out 3 bulldog clips I had clipped down the front of her dress because the dress was a bit big and it was a bit sagging at the back, so I wanted it pulled in tighter at the back. So there were 3 bulldog clips around the front, but you could just see the ends of them sticking out here, so I airbrushed those out. I love this shot. The same model with the lovely hair. I basically did do a couple of full-length shots, but I had her wear this dress, and I said, just, you know, I want a really strong, powerful, you know, sort of powerful corporate woman kind of pose, and she came up with this, and I just thought that looked really good. Same model, again, black and white, because there was no colour in the clothing at all. I took this shot years ago, and this was actually between shots. The model was just, you know, messing about with her fingers, looking down, trying to figure out what to do next, and I just took that shot. So it's between poses, but it worked. I kind of liked it. Here, yeah, a little bit cliche, isn't it, this one? Especially here with the smoke in the background, but got to be done. I like the one with the smoke in the background, and I've got a few more here of the same model. I basically used my colour theory charts for this, you know, to get the contrast in colour right. You know, the green goes with this sort of purpley background. There was a light behind her on a stand, putting this pool of light up there. There was a cable running across the floor that I airbrushed out. And same model. I like these. I like that pose. That's really good. And I like this one as well. I asked her to do a Madonna Vogue kind of pose, and she didn't know what I was talking about, so I had to show her a few pictures on my iPhone, and then she kind of came up with this. As for the masky thing she's wearing, I got that off Amazon. And there's a couple more shots of the same model here. I got this dress off Temu, believe it or not. I think it's like reduced from like $90 to $25, allegedly. They say things are reduced that heavily, but they're not really. Again, the mask I got from Amazon. This was a friend. He wanted some street fashion photographs, sort of quite a trendy guy, snappy dresser. So he wanted some sort of street fashion photographs. So these were taken with quite a while back with a Canon EOS 5D Mark III, I think it was, with a 70 to 200 Canon L-series zoom. All of them shot at 200. So yeah, that's what they were. Again, another sort of Vogue-y type shot here of a little bridal shoot. Lifestyle. You know, I don't really know what lifestyle is. I think some of you might say, oh, well, that's not lifestyle, that shot. So I think it encompasses quite a range, lifestyle. So admittedly, some of them probably aren't too lifestyle, in all honesty. But I figured I should throw something up here. This is a shot of a friend. Again, I just sort of snapped this off when the wind blew and it blew her dress up. So I was just sort of fiddling with the camera and trying to work out what shot to do next. And as the wind blew, she looked down and then just after this was taken, she pulled her hands out and pushed the dress down a bit. And that explains why the composition's a little bit off. If I'd have basically framed it properly, I would have left a bit more space between the edge of her dress here that's overhanging the tree and the left side of the frame, and not had quite so much space to the right, I would have moved the camera left just a little bit. Not to put a center frame, because I rarely do that. But because the wind just blew, I just snapped it just to get it. Otherwise, I would have missed a shot. So it worked. I kind of quite liked it. The QT in Cambridge again. I like this shot. I could have airbrushed out the little bit of building in the background there. But again, I thought, no, I'm going to leave it. It's not too distracting. I'll leave it there. It was fine. A few more violin shots and a couple of musicians. I like this one. I had two lights, a key light to the left and a little light over to the right, putting light down the right-hand side, just as a bit of a rim light. And the sun was doing a good job in the background. So, yeah, I like this one. The wood on the violin looks quite nice as well. Again, nothing special. It's just kind of like a little bit of a portrait for that musician there. Automotive. I don't do too many automotive shots. There's a couple on here that stand out that I'll show you. Took this one for somebody, their Super Harley Davidson. Yes, in hindsight, I probably could have opened up the aperture another stop just to throw the house out a little bit more. I'm not really a fan of blowing out backgrounds, totally obliterating them, like 85mm f1.2, that kind of thing. Otherwise, there's no point. You might as well just use a Colorama backdrop if you're just going to totally cream and smooth the background out totally. But yeah, I could have opened up one more stop perhaps on this one, but I like the idea of it being sort of more an environmental bike shot. This is a bike and this is a guy's house because it's a nice house. And I wanted you to be able to see that there's a house there. I did Photoshop out the house number that was on this brick wall, which I didn't consider cheating because I could have taken a screwdriver and just taken it off and just plonked it on the grass out of frame and then put it back. So I don't really consider that cheating because that's something I could have done while I was there. Some of these were taken at Snetterton Race Circuit. It's a guy just going around the track warming up his tyres. This shot here, I took for a friend of mine on his Triumph Tiger. This was a vehicle to bike shot, so his wife was driving a hatchback car. I was on the back seat with the boot open, going along about 30 mile an hour. Not that quick. So I experimented with shutter speeds from a 30th of a second, getting slower and slower until I got just the right amount of blur in the background and on the wheels. I like this particular shot because he decided to look into his rear view mirror for cars behind, because before we started driving off, I said, look, I want you to keep just to the centre of the road as if you're going to overtake us, but don't, and sit about 10 yards back. But he kept checking his mirrors to make sure there's nothing coming up behind. So I like that shot. This one was taken at Snetterton Race Circuit. I like these panning shots, but they are a fine art. Anybody that takes shots like this regularly or for a living will probably be way better at it than I am. Because I had quite a lot of misses. I had about a 60% hit rate for the focus of the car being spot on and about a 40% failure rate. So this was one of the hits. So I really like that. Nothing special here. I just took this shot because I was at a race circuit and I just decided to take a close-up shot of this Ninja logo. And you're getting some of the metalwork from the handlebars. So I like that shot. Again, nothing special here, just a couple of panning shots of cars taken on the same day. So not too much in the automotive section. Product photography. Again, not too much here, just a few, but I'll show you them anyway. This was taken at a local hi-fi shop, some B&W speakers. Anybody that knows about hi-fi will know that these things cost the earth. I can't remember whether they were 20 grand or 40 grand, I forget, but they're a lot. I mean, ridiculous. I used a great big scrim on this behind the softbox to light it, otherwise you would have seen all the reflections of the softbox. So, yeah, a huge, great big scrim to try and smooth out the reflections there. But I like the angle. This was just the natural wall, skirting board and carpet in the shop. I felt it didn't need any backdrop or anything else. It just works. So I like that just for what it is. It's mega expensive. Now this one, a lot of people said to me, is that like a render? Which I took as a compliment. I thought, is a photograph that good? People think it's fake. But the reason the background is so crushed and black is because I was using black velvet as a background and I had the flashlights a long way away from it, so it wasn't even being touched. So it was very black to start with. Admittedly, I did crush it a tiny bit more, because I think down on one edge there was a tiny bit where you could see it wasn't quite black. It was this very dark grey at one point, so I just sort of made sure it was totally black. It was focus stacked, so I took a photograph focusing on this bit at the back of the guitar, the little knob, the logo and the bridge, then the pickup, and then I took about 4 more focus stack shots going down the neck right to the head. And I had huge scrims on this. Over the top of the guitar, I had a scrim that's about 7 foot by 6 foot with a light, a bare bulb light behind it, a flash, just a bare flash bulb, to make sure I wasn't going to get any reflections, because without that you would have seen reflections of the lights in the ceiling. I also had a huge scrim around the side of the guitar on both sides, otherwise again you might have seen reflections of cabinets and all sorts of stuff in this. The guy that owns the guitar wasn't too happy. He said you can't really see all the blue sparkle, and that's true, because when you use huge scrims, it does tend to, lose some of the specular sparkle. And I don't know any way around that. So if anybody knows how to use huge scrims yet retain the sparkle, do let me know, because I can't figure it out. So yeah, I was really happy with that. It just looks like a really good product shot. A couple of shots here of Iron Man. This is a figure that I bought off Amazon for about £100. It's only about 6-7 inches tall, metal and movable. Admittedly, there's a tiny bit of cheating in this one, in that the background is an image shown on my television screen. I've got a 65-inch LG TV, so that is my TV screen in the background. The sand under his feet and the Iron Man are real, obviously. Now, the sand I bought from the local builders merchants, and it was very white sand. So I had to, in post-production, match the colour of this to the colour of this bit of sand down here, so it kind of blended. As for all the little lines in his metal suit, I masked every single line. I painted every single one of them in, and then I just brought up the exposure and changed the colour temperature to a very cool one to make it look like it's all lit up with all these little lines. And same for the bit on the hand here and here. I just basically masked those bits off and just brought the exposure right up. Same for the eyes as well. I've got another Iron Man one here. Same method. Image in the background is on my TV. What he's standing on here that looks like road surface asphalt is actually a tile that I bought from a local tile shop. It's about 3 foot by 2 foot, and I angled it to match the pavement of the picture in the background, if that makes sense. So the road that was here originally in the photograph had all potholes in it and whatnot, and naturally I couldn't have the Iron Man stand on that because it's a photograph. So I angled this tile going away so it matched the edge of the pavement in the picture, and then had him stand on it. Only 2 lights, both with small Godox AD100 flashlights, the little ones that look like soda cans. The right-hand light had a blue gel over it, which is why it looks a bit bluish down this side. And on the left-hand light, I had a red gel. The reason I went for those colours is because the shops over on the left, or restaurants, whatever they are, have got a lot of red lights on them. So I wanted the flashlight to match that, to make it look like the light was coming from these buildings here, the street windows. On the right-hand side, across the street, you can't actually see what restaurants or shops there are, but it's to be assumed that they're blue, hence me using a blue gel on this one, and it matches the blue on this side of the shot as well. And again, with all the little lines in his suit, I masked every single one of them, brought up the exposure for those, and changed the colour temperature to make it really cool. So that's that shot. A couple of alien shots here, nothing special, again with background projected onto the TV. Corporate work, nothing special in here. That's it, basically. These are just the kind of shots that a hotel might want on their website. You know, the lobby, one of the bedrooms, and a room that they would hire out for boardroom meetings, that kind of thing. This is a shot I took for a friend of mine. She wanted a corporate headshot for her website. Usual key fill, back and background light to do that shot, and then 3 other corporate shots for the workers of this hotel. They wanted pictures of their staff to go on the Meet the Team page of their website, including the chef. Food, I don't have too much food. That's all the food I've got here. I'll go through a couple of them. I love this shot. I'm just going to talk you through this a little bit. The 2 bits of card, they're kind of like coloured foam board, 2 different pieces. Now, the horizon, the reason the lighting on the background looks different to the lighting here is because there's a space of about 1 metre between the card that the cups are sitting on and the background. I could actually walk down this gap, and on the floor underneath this bit of card that the cups are sitting on, there's a flashlight aiming up at this back piece of card, putting this ball of light onto it. So that's why it suddenly cuts off there, because this bit of card is literally about 1 metre away from that one. I did have to put a tiny little snoot And it wasn't quite tiny enough, so I made it even smaller with a little bit of rolled up cardboard. So the endless snoot was literally only about a centimetre across, just to put a little pull of light onto these coffee beans, because they were quite dark in the shot and you've really got to bring them out. Cups didn't actually have fluid in them. Well, they did. I filled them up about 90% of the way with tiny little glass marbles, and then I spent a couple of hours setting it all up with the lights. Just one key light with a egg crate grid on it to the left, and to the right there was a small white reflector just to bounce a little bit of light back in, and then of course the light on the background. So once I got this shot all done, I then filled the cups up with warm water. Now, bearing in mind they were already like 90% filled with marbles, so I only needed a little bit of water just to get to the top of the marbles. And then I frothed up some milk, just put that on top, and then using the stencil, put these patterns on the cups, and then snap, took the shot. So that's all there is to that one. The next one, Jack Daniels. With this one, behind the bottle, I had a gold piece of very reflective gold card, like what you buy from art shops, and it was sitting behind the bottle, angled away. So I cut it out to match the shape of the bottle so you couldn't see it, placed it behind the bottle, angled it away slightly, and then over on the right, I had a tiny little snooted light to kick some light into that gold reflector so that it bounced through the bottle to make the liquid look more appetizing. Now, in hindsight, I can't quite decide about the glass. There were fake ice cubes. I wanted the glass to be a little bit out of focus because I wanted to concentrate on the Jack Daniels, but in hindsight, I probably would have maybe done a focus stack or done F11 or something like that instead to get both of them in focus. Still can't quite decide to this day. The next shot, the wine bottle, happy with this, but again, if I'd have taken it again, I would have used a large scrim between the softbox, which is over on the left, and the products, because you can see the reflection of the softbox here in the glass. That's what this line is coming down the bottle as well. It's just a reflection of that elongated softbox. If I'd have used a large scrim, like 4 foot wide and 7 foot tall, that would have all been smoothed out and it would have been creamier. And again, I would have lost a little bit of specular highlight because of that, but I think I would have preferred it. This one, just some, is it kiwi fruit, this stuff? Just chopped up, sitting on a piece of frosted perspex with a single Canon speed light underneath, firing towards the camera. That's all there was to it. But, you know, wall art all over the place. I had quite a bit of cleaning up to do because there were lots of little scabby bits of seeds dotted around here and there. I probably spent about half an hour just cleaning them all out. And yeah, that takes you back to your childhood, doesn't it? Some hula hoops. Right, the boudoir section. Just going to go for a few of these shots. Right, yeah, these are just sort of, I was just messing about with these shots with this model. It's the same model that's wearing a motorcycle helmet in a minute that I'll show you. For this one, I asked the model to pretend she was a mannequin. I just want a stiff mannequin type pose, and that's what she came up with. And then afterwards did this one. This was like a posed shot. Here, I like this one. Again, another of my masks that I bought off Amazon. I got quite a collection of those things, but I like this. I like the stark contrast between the colour of her eyes and the mask, her hand position. I just like that shot. This one I took years ago. Again, this was kind of like one of those in-between shots. I was just asking the model to play around, looking over his shoulder, looking down, and while I tried to figure out what I wanted. And while she was doing that, I took this shot, and it just kind of worked. Same model, kind of a strong pose, worked in black and white. Now for my Bob Carlos Clark influenced shots. Anybody that remembers Bob Carlos Clark, that's Clark with an E on the end, look him up. My favourite photographer of all time. He used to do stuff like this all the time, so I was thinking of Bob when I did these shots. And working with this model was great. She was just an absolute bundle of fun with these strong poses. I love the way her hair is on this shot. Honestly, she could twist herself into a pretzel. She's a dancer and a gymnast. So, you know, she could stick her legs behind her head, all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. But she's really good fun to work with. So these are my Bob Carlos Clark influenced photographs. On the same day, she changed outfits and she loved these shots so much. She said, can I put them up on my Instagram page? So I sent her some and she titled them Bubblegum Bitch. So there you go. But yeah, it's great fun. Loads of outfits, loads of wigs. You know, not a natural hair. She's got the tats going on there as well. The owner of this studio, it wasn't my studio. I basically used this studio one afternoon. Said that nobody ever uses a swing because he's got a swing like, you know, attached to the beam. So I thought, all right, well, I'll use it. So I just had to do a couple of things on the beam. This one, it was part of my test shot because whenever I'm setting up lights in the studio, I always set the background light first because for me, the background light is the most important one. So I always nail that. I had a light behind the model pointing up towards the background to put this ball of white light there that vignettes out to darkness. So I was just making sure I was getting the exposure right on that. And she was doing a few movements. She actually thought it was part of the shoot, even though I'd said to her that it's not, I'm just doing tests. But I don't think her English was great, so she thought it was part of the shoot. But I like this, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep that and I'm going to use it as a portfolio shot. Next, I don't know what I was thinking, getting this girl to wear a motorcycle crash helmet. I came up with this concept and I figured it might look good. I got the leather waistcoat off Amazon and she, brought her own sort of lingerie and stuff. And I remember asking her, I said, do you know how to put on a motorcycle helmet? Do you want me to show you how to put it on? And she said, no, don't worry. My boyfriend's a motorcyclist. I'm on the back of his bike all the time. So I thought, fine. This is my favourite shot out of all of them. I like that as well. Just a good, strong pose. But again, I've got no idea what I was thinking when I went with that. Right, I got a couple more here, taken in 1988 on a Nikon. It was either an F3 or an FM2, I can't remember which, with a 100 or 105mm lens, something like that, with Fujichrome 50 ASA film, as you can see, slide film. I made this little template thing up myself because I wanted it to be obvious that these were taken a long time ago, these shots. So that's why I put that there. So yeah, just a few shots taken in 1988 in a small studio in North London. Had a good few hours that afternoon, but nothing special here, just a few old nostalgic photographs. Finally, other, nearly there. Not too many shots in here, but I'm just going to go through a couple of them. This first one was Carl Taylor influence. That's Carl with a K. It's a great website actually that you can subscribe to, and every now and then I subscribe for a month or two. And because he does these briefs, he'll give viewers a brief, say right, do this, blah blah blah, and everybody sends their shots in and it gets judged, that kind of thing. So that's what this was, and I really liked it. Again, the reason, if you're looking at this thinking, why does the shadow of the egg suddenly stop there? It's because, again, I got these two bits of card from Hobbycraft, and there's a gap of about 3 foot between this piece of card and that one. You could walk between them. So the light casting the shadow of the egg, that's why it dropped, because it's literally dropping over a cliff. This next shot, just taken for a local hotel. I had to get up at the crack of dawn. I don't know what it is with people when they're on holiday. They want to get up at like 7 in the morning and go for a swim. So I had to get there at like 6:15 to take this before anybody went into the pool, because I just wanted smooth water. And yes, the bottom corner of the pool is cropped off here, but I thought it was more important to have this beam up here at the expense of the bottom part of the pool. I was already on like a 16mm lens on full frame, and if I'd gone any wider, it would have just started to get a bit fisheye-ish. So I thought, it still works. I like this one. The background on this is a big sort of 3x2 foot. It's a wall tile that they stick up on walls in, almost like for wallpaper. They cost £25 each, and this one was what they call moon rock. So it's got this fake moon rock kind of thing on it. I had a light at the top shining down. These two petals down here were originally yellow, but I colour picked a colour off one of these ones to match it, to make these two pink as well, because I figured having a couple of yellow ones over here, looking like they'd just fallen off, they wouldn't really be over there. So I changed the colour of those two. But I like the lighting on this more than anything else. The red one in the middle, I brought the exposure up a little bit with a little bit of dodging, which is probably why it looks a tad fake. Nothing special here. I took this for a local vicar. He wanted a Christmas card to send out to people at Christmas, so it had Happy Christmas written up here. A little bit of a comp shot. It was a long exposure, about 30 or 40 seconds, and during the exposure I had a Godox LED light, quite a powerful one, with my Fresnel lens on it, and I basically painted the church with the light during the long exposure. One of my favourite shots ever. Love this. I had a great time working with this model. Very toned and very, very strong. I wanted her to be hanging upside down on this pole. And at the beginning, I wasn't happy with her hands because her hands were tensed like almost into fists. And I didn't like that. So I wanted her to relax her hands. So I said, look, can you just try and relax your hands and arms a little bit? Which she found really hard because it's like she had to tense up her leg and her lower body from the waist down, obviously, to grip the pole. But in the end, I managed to get her to do it. And poor thing, I had her hanging there all day long while I was doing it. She had to keep coming down for a rest and then going back up and trying it again and again and again until I got this shot. And in this next shot, which I took straight after, you can see that she's got that look in her eyes, like saying, don't ever put me through that again. She's just really annoyed with me, giving me the total, pissed off eyes there. This next one, nothing special. This was just a snap. But I thought it kind of looked a bit kind of painterly and nice. So I brought out the reds a little bit in the flower. And yeah, I kind of quite like that. The girl I was talking about earlier with the Canon spherical aberration ring with the flowers, this is the same girl. So this was the main purpose of the shoot that day, to, again, replicate a famous Bob Carlos Clark shot. So I thought I'll do my version of it, and that was it. I had to ask her to be really careful with the knife, because I bought this knife off Amazon, a quite good quality one, and it was just absolutely razor sharp. So I said, just like, be careful with it. You know, she had it leaning against the, you know, these sort of, whatever that material is of these trousers. And I said, you know, be careful. And then I took this shot. I figured I'd have her turn around and face the camera and stick a mask on her as well. So really like that. This next shot, the old vagina fruit. If you Google that, you'll see what I mean. Lots of people have attempted to do this shot. Most of them are awful. So I thought I'd do my version of it. In fact, I did a complete video on this shot and how I achieved it. It's a fake hand. It's not a real hand. The ring I bought off Amazon. But if you're interested in knowing exactly how I got that shot, I go into a lot of detail in a different video. So I'll put a link in the description below as to how I achieved that. Whiskey glass, it's not sitting on a mirror, it's actually sitting on a piece of polished stainless steel, because mirrors can give like little double reflections and stainless steel doesn't. So all there is a piece of frosted perspex in the background with a single Canon speedlight pointing towards the camera, and I basically dropped the ice cube in and took the shot at the same time as dropping the ice cube. Obviously I had to do it about 20 times until I got one that I was happy with. And that's the one that I was happy with in the end. There were a couple of little messy splashes of water up above, which I airbrushed out because I figured they just looked a bit messy. Again, I didn't consider that cheating, because if I'd have taken the shot 100 times, I probably would have got one that was perfect. So I was happy with that. Shot of the moon, nothing special there. Again, nothing special here, just a portrait of an owl. A great horned owl, is it? I'm not sure. Ornithologists will be able to tell me that one. Over here, vampire girl. Yes, I know. Some of you are going to be saying, oh, she's wearing a crucifix. You know, vampires can't handle crucifixes. I know, but it is what it is. And then, of course, she got out the old fake blood towards the end of the shoot. Right at the end, this was done, obviously, so she could go and have a shower and clean up afterwards, I suppose. But had fun with that one. Now, this one, yeah, very raunchy. Inspired by Bob Carlos Clark, because Bob used to do shots like this all the time. There's a famous shot, I'll bring it up on screen, of a bunch of action figures standing around at a party, I think, and one of them is groping the backside of another one. So I took influence from that. Just a couple of Barbie dolls up to, well, I'm not going to say up to no good, because it probably was good for them in this little set that I created. So yeah, I like that one. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That is my portfolio as of 2026. Okay, so I hope you like the design of my website, but more importantly, I hope you actually like the portfolio images on it. Now, if you're a photographer and you've got your own website with your own portfolio, then maybe leave a link to it in the comments below, because I'm always curious to look at other photographers' works to see what other people are up to at this moment as well. So that pretty much brings us to the end of it. Feel free to leave a comment on any of the images, whether you liked them, hated them, or whether any of them stood out to you for any reason. Hope you enjoyed this short video. If you did, maybe I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye for now.